And a very warm welcome to you. You're joining us here once again at Hyde Park on Derana 24 this week as Sri Lanka approaches the parliamentary election just over less than a week ahead. We're talking about Sri Lanka's new culture, whether it's politics, whether it's the system of governance or health and education. But what really fits Sri Lanka? What should Sri Lanka's new system be shaped, and what values and what experience should we take from the rest of the world to shape these, especially health and education? I've invited to our studios an expert who is currently working in Switzerland but who is visiting in Sri Lanka briefly, and that will be until the day of elections. Let me warmly welcome Dr. Nilanga Samarasinghe to our studios. Thank you very much for taking the time to be here.
Yeah. Indeewari.
Ayubowan to you. You are a consultant in health and hygiene in Switzerland, a researcher at the University of Lucerne in Switzerland, a former chairman of the National Dangerous Drugs Control Board of Sri Lanka back in 2015, and this is also on top of you being an MBBS doctor, qualified in Sri Lanka. Yeah. And you read for your master's in health economics and health policy in Switzerland. Am I correct?
Yeah, you are very correct.
So I'd like to speak on these lines. A lot of experiences that you talk about in Switzerland and the rest of the world and how Sri Lanka is. But let us first talk about you've traveled there in 2015. You were heading an institute, the National Dangerous Drugs Control Unit, and moved out of the country. Do you have any plans to enter the administrative status of any institution here in Sri Lanka again?
Actually, no, because I think now our time has gone. Now we have to think about the youth, and we have to hand over the administration and everything to the youth. As the elders, we have to guide them. Now I am here to guide them. I don't have idea to get any administrative post or any kind of political involvement. Just I want to share my knowledge and the experiences and the skills with my nation, because I have grown here with the free health education system and the free health services. Then that's why I thought of coming back and share my knowledge with you all.
You mentioned you want to get back to the country, but I think a crisis situation, the economic situation in this country demands experienced individuals to run the country, to run institutions. Do you believe that youth are capable of doing this?
Yeah, indeed, because now with my experiences, if we go back to the COVID era, then with that time I worked in the health economics department in the University of Lucerne. Then I have seen how a nation prepare for the coming crisis, because at that time COVID just entered to Italy. Then we are bordered with the Italy. Then our universities get together and they have make a plan. If COVID comes to Switzerland, how do we manage that? How do we face it? So at the same time, then I thought that could come to Sri Lanka also. Then I have made my plan with the experiences with my professors and others, how they have engaged with the Switzerland plan. Then I just sent to the previous government, Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa's, but they have no vision or no idea how to mitigate with this problem and how to face it. So then I thought I just wasted. Then I just sent it to the Europa Commission. Then it was just published by the University of Amsterdam as a model plan for the third world country, how to face for the COVID. Yeah, it's now very, it was talked in the Europe.
But Sri Lanka didn't want to.
Yeah,
okay.
They didn't take it.
But since you mentioned about Sri Lanka's situation, do you think Sri Lanka did not manage the COVID situation well enough, or were you suggesting Sri Lanka suggested in a different way, your model?
Yeah, because we have seen as a developing country, it as an opportunity. Because if you go for the other developed countries after the Second World War, if you get Japan, if you get Korea and the Germany, they raise from the crisis. Crisis is the golden opportunity. Crisis gives us the chance to think differently. So if you get the COVID again, you see there was a ban for tourism all over the world. But if we could manage to take kind of portion from the world tourism to here, instead of having at the same time having the COVID, it will make a huge difference in our country, because you know the effect of the COVID to the countries in South Asia is not like in the China or the Western. You know now the new world not allow any country to develop from the traditional ways by just implementing, if you get the IMF proposals or so on. We should have some kind of magic way to get this fast economical growth, so that now also we have that challenge. If we go with this stream, the maximum length we can go back to the 2019. But the nation's expectations not stop at that level, because we are thinking to be a member of the developed countries club.
Right.
So for that we need kind of magical solutions.
You mentioned we need magic. So I want to go back to 2019, the government of 2020 onwards. Short-lived, a massive protest nationwide, disappointment expressed, and we made headlines for all the wrong reasons across the world. What led to this? Is this, as everyone says, a prolonged crisis, or wrong decisions taken by the government at the time, or not going to the IMF?
Yeah, then if we talk about the COVID era, then who governed the regime? The government is regimed by the social media, not by the Gotabaya or the cabinet. Because when the social media says to close the border, they closed. When the social media asks kind of remedy to address the COVID, they brought penny, the Dhammika Paniya, next the other kind of injections and so on. So how this came? Because the government just focus on what the people think and how the people react. But at that time, our professions also missed their duty, because as I said, in the Switzerland, all the professionals, the economic professors and the medical professors and so on, in their capacities, they made solutions before the problem comes. What we are doing is we are going to look for the solutions after the problem came to your door. Then that's what happened every time. In the same time, then if you go for the COVID again, then there is a barrier for the exports and imports.
Right.
But we didn't talk about the food security. But if we couldn't import, the necessary things, our nation is going to be in hunger for a longer time. But then if you open your eye at that time, I don't think the 2022 people arise doesn't come, because with the preparations in the COVID will bring you for the stability. How the government became unstable because they didn't manage the COVID properly. Then that ended with the that goal phase, so-called goal phase struggle.
So that, in your opinion, was led to a massive economic crisis in the country.
Yeah.
Again, we have taken a number of measures now, from going to the IMF to restructuring debt to having negotiations with bondholders, and the government has, the new government of President Anura Dissanayake has assured that debt restructuring will be completed by December. I think the central bank governor mentioned that. So with all this, do you think the new government is doing something different, the magic that you were talking about? Or are they continuing on certain decisions taken by maybe the Ranil Wickremesinghe government, or do we see continuity of it? What's your opinion?
Yeah, now in my observation is the new government also going in the same pathway as the Ranil went when he was the president. Now, as the current president said, we have no other options. Now we are in the midway of the parliament, as the so-called popular thing. So now we cannot go back, and now the only option we have is to go forward. So but at the same time, if you totally believe on the IMF plan, it won't bring much for the country, because it just brings the stability what they ask. Because you know we are living in a global village. So if in somewhere if it is collapse, it will be a point to collapse all the system of the world. You don't take the Sri Lankan economy as a very small thing, tiny thing, because the many USA citizens and the other foreign citizens have invested here. Then now that's why the IMF support us, because keeping our economy stable directly, not indirectly, directly helps to the stability of the all around the world. Because then it's if something happen here, it will be like what do you call it, then start of a huge the massive collapse everywhere.
Right. I want to interrupt there and ask you. You mentioned, Doctor, that the IMF program, as perceived by it, stability will be achieved in Sri Lanka. Is that okay? But is there any other way we can do this, if not the IMF?
Yeah, then we have so many options, because India supported us before we go to the IMF. They have given, I think, $4 to $5 billion dollars. But we are receiving from the IMF, because of the IMF program, just 3 to 4 billions. Because we have already got from the India more than what is going to give by the IMF. But at the same time, now we have to think about the other ways how to, because now in 2028 we have to pay at least $7 billion per year. It's a huge challenge, because you know our income also just around 15 billion. But we don't know the plans of government to bring more income to the country. So because after paying this 7 billion, then you need another 25 billion to day-to-day survival for the education and so on, health and so on. So now we have to focus on that, generating income. So generating income you can do in a one night. Then you should have a proper plan. But you just have another 3 years. Then we are waiting how the government is going to handle this issue. It's a huge one. If the government has no proper plans now, we couldn't have a hope on what could be happen in 2028. So yeah, that's the biggest.
The parliamentary election, as
Yeah.
I mentioned, around the corner.
Yeah.
And there is widespread understanding that the NPP-led government or JVP-led
Yeah.
NPP will garner a majority support or majority in parliament.
Yeah.
And of course, parties, across parties, there's the party names have thinned. There's independent groups. There are a number of independent representatives. But regardless of how the composition of parliament will be, what are your observations of this change that we're seeing in Sri Lanka? The JVP coming to power also after maybe more than 3 decades of a struggle in politics. They've come to the democratic form of the electoral system and they've won the election through a major coalition.
Yeah.
But what are your opinions about the JVP forming alliance with the NPP, different ideologies, yet they've come together? And there is also questions whether there's division with the hardcore JVPers and the NPP. At the same time, are they able to implement policies that fit the modern world? And do they have an understanding of the crisis that Sri Lanka is facing? So how would you look at these?
Yeah, the thing is, the NPP government is going to deliver what the people ask. But then it's all depend on what the people ask. Then what the people are asking to stop corruption and catch the robbers who rob the national wealth. So that is the main focus of the regime. But just catching the robbers or just stopping the corruption won't bring you more $7 billion to the country to pay in 2028. And at the same time, you cannot bring the country in the development pathway to be a member of the Club of Developed Countries. That's why we are suggesting, at the same time, while you catching the robbers and while you stopping the corruption, you should have a proper program to enhance the income for the country. And this point also we see we are going to much more focus on production economy. But if you get the Sri Lanka is the better country for the service economy. Because the biggest resource we have is the human resource. We have a very intellectual and higher educated community or the people. But if you get from the other way, then we have nothing. If I say frankly, we don't have oil or the gold or the diamond or the whatever the minerals. When we talk about the ilmenite from the Trincomalee, it's totally a false thing. We couldn't bring anything, or we couldn't sell sugar for the all around the world by growing cane in the Trincomalee district. They are just talks in an election campaign, but we have to accept them. But after you get a regime or the government, you have to focus on the big picture. Where we are in the world map, what are the resources we have, what are the capabilities we have, how we could address the social issues, at the same time the economic issues, because economy is the biggest part of the social issues. You can solve many things by addressing the economical issues of the people as a part of giving solutions to the social issues. But now we cannot see, we couldn't see a clear picture what they are going to do after they get the proper government, after the election. As you said, NPP and the JVP, you know, every government has a kitchen cabinet in any government. If you get the Minister Gotabe or the Mrs. Chandrika, you know, the very small group of people govern the, if you get the Ranil Wickremesinghe also. There was a very little group of people who governed the government and the country. In this scenario, in the NPP government, that small cabinet is going to be the Politburo of JVP. Then we have to accept it. Then we know their ideology. They are more towards the socialism and so on. But we have to think how far we can go with that economical methodology of the socialism, and how the other countries in the world who practice the same economical modalities, do they fail or they not? Do they successful or they not? Then, but hopefully, new president is, I can say, is more towards the liberalism. He's a liberal leftist. Then it's a good thing. We think he could manage both, the socialism as well as the liberalism at the same time. Then we have to see, we have to observe how he manage his JVP hardcore Politburo, and at the same time the NPP. If you get the NPP also, that NPP is made from the people who much towards the leftism, not the rightism. Not the. That's why they are gathered together, because their thoughts are going.
A number of policies or major policies, policy pledges have been given by the NPP-led JVP-led NPP government. President Anuradha Dissanayake pledged to arrest the situation of corruption and this commission mechanism that you see in Sri Lanka. But is this really possible in Sri Lanka, or do we have the laws, regulations, in your opinion? How does countries like Switzerland, we're here to also learn from you, how this happens in maybe countries that are developed and a far more organized, systematic manner in governance, how it is done, what should be the approach?
Yeah, I know very well the laws and the regulations are enough to mitigate the corruption and the recover the robbed, stop the corruption or the mitigate. But I don't see it's very easy to bring back the robbed money as the all the parties are saying in the Rajapaksa regime or the previous regime, the politicians, what they have robbed and deposited in the other countries, because they are very technical and they have done in the very legal ways. It's very hard in the experience in the other countries also. There are very few countries managed to bring back the robbed money from the previous regimes of those countries. In Sri Lanka scenario, now you know there are many international professional bodies who help to rob the money from the developed countries. Just they are getting a commission and they say how to do it and what to do. Then if somebody believe the country could be developed by the money bring back from those robbed, then it's a wrong hope. Then it couldn't be done.
Are you saying we are misled by this hope that stolen monies hidden in Uganda or wherever can be brought back to Sri Lanka?
Yeah, then everybody knows, no, that the Uganda allegation is false, or the kind of false things, but we have seen in the discussion among the past presidents, Mrs. Chandrika, Mr. Ranil, and Mr. Maitripala, they have talked about the stolen money in Dubai, 1 billion stolen money deposited in Dubai. But and at the same time they said what has happened to it, and at the end it's just a talk show. Nothing will come back to the country, and nothing proposed how to bring back.
But these are promises that this government gave, and I think everyone has high hopes that corruption and all wrongdoings will be put right.
It is going to be a boomerang to the current government also, because it is the biggest promise they have given to the nation. They will bring the money back to the country what has robbed from the previous governments. It is going to be a boomerang. If they want to stop it, they have to see. But in my point of view, what they are going to do, then they just go on the process, but no result. Then, but when you get the Switzerland, you said you asked about the Switzerland, then it's very difficult to compare Switzerland with Sri Lanka, because these countries have developed for hundreds of years, come to this situation. It didn't happen within 5 years or the 20 years. It takes time, but the Sri Lanka people has no that patience. They want the developed country just after 5 years, because the politicians also give that promise. What they say, then apita awurudu pahak api hadanawa ratak oba balaporottu wena. This the false promises that has happened for the last 75 years. We can see just a continuation of that, but it will bring nothing to the country. But as he said, the President Anura, then you got the country as it is, no? Then what you have to go from now onward. Just blaming for the past bring nothing. Then even though you couldn't bring the robbed money, even though you couldn't stop the corruption 100%, because you know, as a nation, not only the politicians, if you get the people also, we also 95% corrupted. Then otherwise you couldn't survive in this society. That's the argument they are saying, because we all see for the other ways of income, because you couldn't manage your family with the proper income from your job. Then they are looking for the other avenues. So then that should be happen bilaterally. When the government be example for the nation, they come from top to bottom. But we have to go as a people from bottom to top. Then we can meet at the midway. But as the people, we just give that task to the government and say, stop corruption. Stop corruption doing by the politicians or the parliamentarian. But just stopping the corruption, which is doing by the government, not bring the development to the country. There should be attitude change from the nation, because who the people we select for the government, who are the politicians, they are coming from the people. They are
but in a country where hopelessness has, let's say, has continued throughout. For example, government after government, people believe that even the Rajapaksa regime, the war ended and people were very happy. They gave him a second term to improve on the development, and that was the development era of Sri Lanka. And then the government of good governance. You were the chairman of the Dangerous Drugs Control Board at the time, but you didn't see that happening. We didn't see the government of good governance seeing any good governance in Sri Lanka, which is why the Gotabaya Rajapaksa government was brought in, and then people who voted for him, the 6.9 million went out to the streets, and there was a never seen before history changing situation in the country where the people put the regime out of power, and now you see this new government. So you're talking about an attitude change. I think the people also genuinely want this change. But do you think it's possible to start this from ground level up and meet at the middle when you still have questions whether it's possible, whether this government is going to this? So how does this really, how do you bridge that gap?
Yeah, it's possible because now we have a government. It's going to be a very new one because the president also asking for the newcomers to the parliament, and the same time from the opposition also. You know, the majority of the candidates are very new because now they are going to the parliament as non-corrupted ones. Under the Mr. Anurukumara, then he has the executive powers, you know. Then we can expect under his executive presidency, no one who bears the cabinet portfolio, the other portfolios, can do a corruption. If somebody does a corruption in the government, it's a failure of the president because he has all the powers. You know, we say, no, this executive presidency only couldn't do the Ganiek, Pirimik, Ganiek.
A famous statement by late President Jayawardena.
So, with such kind of executive powers, if he couldn't stop the corruption, I would like to say it's a failure of him. So then with the new government and the new parliament, we can hope it won't go for the corruption. As you said, if we go for the bottom to up, I know from my profession, as the doctors couldn't survive without having a proper salary. But there is no way for giving a proper salary for the doctors when the other sectors also asking the equal salary because of the current economical hardships what they face. But you know, the laborer and the doctor couldn't have the same salary in any setup. But then they are looking for the other avenues for earning money. Then with those avenues, then it is going to be a corrupted ways because you just have 24 hours per day. Then if you do a proper service in the government sector, you have no time to do something in the private sector.
You mentioned that this new government, it will be a failure of the president himself if he can't implement his corruption-based promises. But the government that is going to come to power, names that are unknown, people we've not heard of, some have no experience in government at all or in politics. So such a new team, do you think they will have the experience in a critical and complex situation as Sri Lanka is today?
Yeah, it's a huge challenge for them. I don't say they couldn't. It's a huge challenge. Then they are saying they are going to take it. Then they say the others having experiences on corruption and bad things. Then they don't have it. But as you said, we know the coming government has no experiences in handling the economy and the other things. As the Prime Minister, Miss Harini said, they are going to learn by doing. But as you said, in this moment, we cannot do experiments because we are in a critical situation. So then you need the experience of the people who have them. Then the government has to invite for them. Then I think if the government is going for a coalition government with the other small parties on the other minority ethnic groups, parties from them, is going to be better than having a just single party government. So yeah, then
if this government goes into that, that will be an exemplary situation, winning a majority, but yet going into a coalition with opposition parties, minority groups and independent parties as well.
No, because as I said to you, now we don't have a formal way to be a developed country. Because if it is so, all the other countries in the world also practice the same way, no? Then the other Nepal or the Maldives or the countries in the Africa also practice that. If the IMF program is the correct one, if it is suitable for every country, why don't the other countries have become the developed countries? That's why I say IMF is a good tool to just come up from this critical situation. But if you want to be a member of the developed countries club, then you have to find a magical way. As a way, we have such a, just building the bridge between India and Sri Lanka will be a good option for us, because there are 500 million middle class who is seeking better places for their holidays and vacations. And if you could make the bridge and bring at least 10% from them, it's a big boost for the tourism. And at the same time, in India, the price of a kilogram of rice is just 50 rupees. Then if we can bring the day-to-day living things to here, then the living condition of our nation also going up. At the same time, we can earn, because we can make this as a duty-free hub, because we have a good connection with China and all.
But I'd also like to add to that, talking about Indian products coming into Sri Lanka, or Indian professionals with comprehensive agreements that Sri Lanka entered into. There have been many opposition, especially from doctors, the profession you represented in Sri Lanka. How do you address this situation, even whether it's professionals or products that Sri Lanka will have of Indian origin, and then the local industries would be wiped out because it comes in large quantities and in lower prices. And the Sri Lankan industries would not be able to match that market because our labor costs are high. How do you think that situation could be arrested?
Handled. It's not a rocket science, because as we know, the human resource of Sri Lanka have higher standards because of the India has a 1 billion population. It's not going to be a threat for us, because at the same time, we also can import our skilled labor to India, because India has a huge market. Then if they send 1 million from India to here, it's just 1 from 100. But if you could send 1 million to there, it's a big boost for our labor market. Why don't you see as that way? Because we just see how they.
But will our labor, maybe what we supply, will that have a demand in India? India is highly, you have, yes, we talk about literacy in Sri Lanka, but India's, the development, the IT sector to everyone is well trained and they're highly skilled. So what should we do in Sri Lanka to at least meet that gap?
Yeah, then at the same time now, if you get the medical education, you know there are many medical schools in India. Now, if we allow them to come here and set up the medical schools, then we also produce the doctors. Now we prevent it producing the doctors, and we see there's a threat of doctors coming from there. If we also produce the doctors, then we can face it. Yeah, at the same time, if we get an example from Switzerland. Now Switzerland is a very tiny country among the giants, Italy, Germany, and France. Then how do they survive among those giants? Because of the language. Because then we can address that problem by making a bar. Because if you want to practice in Colombo, then you should know the Sinhalese, because Sinhalese is the major language in the Colombo district. If at the same time, if you work in the Jaffna, then you should know Tamil. Then by establishing these barriers, you can prevent the flow of labor from the other countries. That is what we are practicing in Switzerland. And there are many ways you can handle the.
So the language, how do you, I suppose you had to do the same when you went to Switzerland.
Then it was a challenge to me also, because before I having a job, I have to learn the German language. For the it's like IELTS. If you don't pass, then you couldn't have a job.
Right.
Whether you have any other qualification. Yeah, then we can implement the same here. Then we have to take these challenges. Otherwise we couldn't go forward, because having a huge market like India in few kilometers away, I don't think even why do we stay in this situation, because it's a huge market. What we have to do is, as you said, our labor cost is very high. Then we have to go for the value-added products. Just if you get tea, just we export the raw tea. We are not thinking making a sachet even from this. It's just about 15%, as I heard. But if you take coffee, they have made so many varieties from the coffee. Cappuccino, lingos, black coffee, and so on. But here, before the Westerns have introduced us, we even didn't make iced tea, lemon tea. But we have so many ways to address those problems, because our labor is very costly. At the same time, our labor is very precious.
Right. We are running out of time, but I have a few questions also, at least as a priority to ask you. Tax is a major question here in Sri Lanka, especially after the economic crisis, and more tax measures, revenue measures being introduced as part of the IMF's requirements for Sri Lanka to up government revenue. But this also is a target on the lower income earners who have never paid tax, but indirect taxes like value-added tax in every product you purchase. How is this situation managed in Switzerland? Because I have had experts who say, no, in countries like India, the people are protected. It is the investors who are taxed and not given tax breaks. But in Sri Lanka, we choose to give tax breaks. But again, bringing more to the tax net, Switzerland runs on taxes, and we're talking about also an imagined tax for rentals or residences. So what kind of a system do you think works for Sri Lanka?
Yeah, then we have to think about our context. It is not similar as India or the Switzerland. Then, because the majority of the people, the argument against the taxes is we are not earning enough to day-to-day life. After we spend money, we have nothing to pay as a tax. But you know, as a country, we have to start from some point. We all have to pay. But tax exemptions can be given for the people below the poverty line.
Right.
We can totally free them from the taxes. But everybody must pay it. Without paying, then you cannot continue and maintain the free education and the free health system and so on. Because now we are paying 85% from everything what we purchase as indirect tax. It's if you pay direct tax, I think people pay less what they pay now as indirect tax. So because of that, the benefit is going to the businessmen who are who earn a lot. But as you asked, then in Sri Lanka, we always need investors from the outside. If they don't get any benefit from coming here, they don't come. They have many places to go: Vietnam, China, even Nepal and India also. That's why we are giving tax breaks. If we don't give, then we don't even get in jobs, because they are coming here and make their factories. If they make factories, we are getting something as our loan, no, as the salary.
Right.
Otherwise, we lost that one also. Then having that have some kind of benefit. If you get the free trade zones, what we are going to have? Just the payment for the labor. Otherwise, everything is coming, material and everything coming from the outside, and the income totally going outside. What we remain is the salary. But
I also want to, you mentioned about free education. Two last questions.
Yeah.
You had free education in Sri Lanka, a product of free education, but the question of ragging, it's continuing to be a major issue even in the modern times. I have encountered many who even work within our institutions who are traumatized because of what's happening within this university system. You say we have to tax to maintain this free education system. Is this what we should be maintaining?
Yeah, it's you know, the everything has pros and cons and the advantages and disadvantages. So I think it's a black mark of our free education, having ragging in the universities. Not only in the universities. If you go for the teaching institutes, where we call Vidyapita, where we make the teachers, and even in the schools, in the advanced level classes, also now we are having ragging. So what I am seeing with ragging is it's just a outcome of the inferiority complex, the way of releasing their stress and their backward the roots. I think we have to address it as a nation, because there is a issue of the attitudes. That's why the students who get caught to ragging in the first year, doing ragging in the second year, then how it could be? I cannot see any argument for that.
This is also a mental health issue in Sri Lanka. And to talk about the larger subject, we have about 2 minutes, and I would be blamed for not asking you any health-related questions, being it being your background, you've studied economics of health.
Yeah.
The economics of health for Sri Lanka. We have free health and so much of government funds pumped into health, but there is still a lot more to be done in improving the national healthcare system as well. While private health is subsidized, we still have a balance here in Sri Lanka. So I'd like you to end this program on maybe your thoughts on health and economics of health in Sri Lanka.
Yeah, the health system, what we are having is, you cannot find in any other country, because if you get the health budget of the Sri Lanka, 55% of the expenditure is bearing by the people. Just 45% spent by the government. Then the problem here is the equality and equity. The people do not have the same equal chances to having the facilities. If you go for the rural area, then it's a pathetic situation, because they all have to come for the cities for having basic medical requirements. To address that, actually it's a huge topic, because the government spending a lot to train doctors, nurses, and the other categories also. But then we have to think about what we gain back from them. Is it beneficial for the system or the not? So then we have to, if you want to systemize our system, the health system, then again then you have to do a huge changes. Structural changes are very huge. Then but if you have thoughts to be a developed country, then again you have to take challenge, and the beginning, the people and the country has to face some kind of difficulties, but we have to face them. Then we have to do some sacrifications for the nation to build this. Then otherwise the poorest won't get the poorest getting only a small portion from the any kind of system, even from the health, even from the education. But equity is the biggest problem when we have to address it with a proper program. Yeah, we couldn't talk about it in
yes, of
2
course.
minutes.
Yeah, but thank you very much for your time here. I wish we had more time to discuss this.
Yeah.
But your basic message of equity and to address all with compassion, I believe, is very well understood. And thank you very much for taking your time to join us here at Hyde Park.
Yeah, thank you for having me here. Thank you.
We were in conversation with Dr. Nilanga Samarasinghe, who is a researcher in Switzerland's University of Lucerne, a consultant in health and hygiene, again in Switzerland. He is a medical, he's in the medical profession. He was a doctor in Sri Lanka, moved to Switzerland, and has held many leading expert positions in that country and previously in Sri Lanka as well. We'll see you again next week with yet another discussion here at Hyde Park. Have a pleasant evening. Good night.